touching the sky when you hear my ting, it's coming too wavy. I gotta protect my C-color, girl that wanna have my babies. Play me, don't try play me, coming too hot so you goddamn rate me. And I don't have no shame, so how on earth are you gonna try shame me, fame me? Wanna be so damn famous, even Bill Gates gonna ask for a picture. All they know is green and Rizla, couldn't be me, I'm trying to get richer. Did somebody bring me mixer? Gotta say sorry to my liver. Cute when you look, but she comes with the heat, man, I know in the room, but she was a kicker.
Righto, ladies and gents, welcome back to another Lifted Larrikins episode. Today's going to be a little bit of a different episode, not as jam-packed with mechanics and fiddling with toys and whatnot, but we're going to go over a lot of specifics on this M57 build that I'm doing, and yeah, basically give you the rundown on why I'm doing it and future plans. I want to start by saying that I'm fortunate enough to be in partnership with Fusion Fab Industries and McKinnon's Cruisers on this build. So Fusion Fab, as some of you might know, is the leader in these M57 conversions, mainly for patrols. And as you also might know, McKinnon's Cruisers is the leader in like 40 series, 80 series conversions, and also recently M57 swaps. We've all sort of come together and merged to build an M57 80 series. So yeah, huge shout out to those guys. I'll put all of their links and profiles in the description, so make sure you hit them up for any of your M57 needs. And yeah, we'll get into some more specifics now. So the biggest question that you might be asking is, why did I choose the M57 for my 80 series? There's heaps of other motors out there that people do conversions with. For example, you got your Barras, LSs, you got FTs, FTEs, oh yeah, Cummins. You don't want to know what Gesture Kim was doing to get me to say Cummins, but you got Cummins, like Duramaxes, all that stuff. And I'd say that M57 conversions are relatively new in this whole conversion world. And they're also pretty unique. My reasoning for going with it was, one, like it's relatively cheap compared to, for example, a Cummins, which was my other option. It's very unique, especially like an 80 series. There's been some done before, but none documented on YouTube. So I wanted to sort of be the first to explore that. And also they rev pretty high for a diesel. Like they're a very tunable motor and you can push quite a bit of power while staying cheap and reliable. That was sort of the main reasoning why I went with this M57. My other options that I was looking at doing were a 5.9 Cummins, which is like a 12 valve, 5.9 litre turbo diesel Cummins. The main thing with that as to why I didn't go with that motor specifically was because they're just so heavy. So much weight over the front axle, you're gonna need some big old springs. And realistically, they're such an outdated motor, like they don't make that much power. Well, they actually make too much power if you tune them too hard, and they'll just start snapping drive lines and stuff. So bang for buck, M57 will be the more tunable motor and I'll get more reliable power out of it. And then why I didn't go petrol is because petrol sucks. In my opinion, I've always loved diesels. Like I had a ZD30, which, okay, like isn't the best diesel, but it was still real good. And then my next car was an 80 series with a 1HZ turbo. And that thing, while it was slow, it was a whole lot of fun, and I don't know, you can't go wrong with a bit of soot and that grunt. So yeah, it sort of was a no-brainer to swap a diesel motor into my 80 series. When I originally bought the 80 series, the plan was to turbo the FZ because I got way too inspired by Sam Young and his FZ. I kind of realized that the turbo FZ might have been a bit of a zesty option. Oh. All right, so we've talked about the motor itself, but now we have to talk about an equally as important part, which is the gearbox. So I've always owned manuals and I love manuals, but this time it made sense to go with the factory BMW Auto that comes with these M57s. So I was thinking about doing like a H151 box, which is a standard 80 series and like 79 series box paired up to this M57, but basically on the market at the moment, there's not a whole lot of gearbox adapters to suit this conversion. So it sort of makes more sense just to keep the whole driveline as factory as possible with this BMW. However, I will need to pair the BMW gearbox to the Toyota factory transfer case, which is where the transfer adapter from Fusion Fab will come in. A little bit about this gearbox, which we'll touch on shortly, as we'll have to pull out the TCU for it. But it's a 6-speed automatic gearbox, Triptonic, so you can chuck it into like manual mode and bang through gears, which is pretty cool. And it's all electronic shift as well. It's all computer based, and that's basically the extent of what I know. It's a sick gearbox. It can handle quite a fair bit of power, and with a little bit of tuning on the TCU, you can actually, get a bit of power out of it and help the motor speak to the gearbox a lot nicer. All right, so I haven't actually talked about the specifics of this motor. So the actual motor code for this is M57N2, which is the latest model of these M57s before the N57. It's a alloy block and head opposed to the steel block and head from the later models. It's a straight inline 6-cylinder diesel with twin turbos on it. So you've got a small turbo and a big turbo, one for the low RPM and one for the high RPM. And like this thing just has power through all of the revs is basically the idea of what BMW had in mind. So this motor came out of a 2009 X5 35D, which is like the big SUV. That's what they're most common in Australia is the X5s. I think you can also find them in X3s and like some 3 Series BMW sedans, but not entirely sure. Anyway, this came out of the X5. I bought a whole donor car, which you would have seen in the last video, and stripped out like the motor, transmission, all the wiring looms, and pretty much everything else I could take from the donor car to suit this conversion. So I'm going off of the House of Torque website. They've got a whole section on M57 tuning, and we can sort of get a general idea of what this motor will be making in terms of power. This from factory comes with around 286 horsepower. And with a simple tune, apparently you can reach around like 340 horsepower and 680 newton meters of torque. I don't know how true that is. I'm just, again, going off of this website. But in my eyes, out of a diesel, like over 300 horsepower is quite a lot of horsepower, especially with the amount of torque that it's putting down in the low range. That's the biggest thing, again, why I went with this motor is the tunability and the drivability. And also being a twin turbo, it'll have a real good power band. Like you'll have power down low and also up high. It sort of revs like a petrol. Some people call this motor and the OM606 from Mercedes the diesel 2JZ in a sense. So again, I'm fairly new to all this Euro stuff and this BMW business, but I'm real keen to get into this and give it a good crack. So I guess my overall goal for this engine conversion is going to be putting in an engine that's going to be reliable and still make decent power. I know that's what everyone says, but I'm not chasing crazy numbers out of this, at least to begin with. And I just want to have something that can go on tour and yeah, be pretty fuel efficient, but also be able to tow stuff if I want to. And I don't know, a bit of hard cut Lemmy would sound all right too. So I'm super thrilled that McKinnon's Cruisers and Fusion Fab Industries have jumped on board for this build. And I'm super keen to see where this build takes us as well. So yeah, let's get into the rest of the video. As you can see down here, that's when you put the camera down to the gearbox. Come back. As you can see down here on the ground, we have got our 6HP28X, our gearbox flipped upside down. And we're going to be removing the TCU, or like the transmission ECU, getting that prepared to be sent down to Melbourne to Ash from Fusion Fab to get it all serviced and tuned and ready for the conversion. All right, so the first order of operations is to get this sump off, which is also the oil filter. It's a whole bunch of Torx bit screws around the outside to get the first layer off, so we'll crack into that now. Righto, all those bolts are out. So let's collect them and put them aside in a neat pile so we don't lose them. That's the biggest thing. Oh, she's off. There is so much oil in here. Now I have no idea what I'm looking at because I've never worked on autos before, but I'm gonna follow a little diagram and we'll figure it out together. So I'm following this diagram that Ash from Fusion Fab has sent me, which shows me the specific bolts I need to remove from the valve body in order to get this TCU out. There's a whole bunch of bolts in here. It's not necessary to remove all of them in order to remove the valve body to get to the TCU. So having this guide here is such a big help to know which bolts to get out and not waste my time. All right, so now apparently all I have to do is pull up this white tab. Okay, that came up easy enough. And now I have to remove this bung from the back. So we've got this little black bung out. Don't know what that's for. Put that to the side. Now hopefully the whole valve body should just lift up. Woo! Sweet, now let's move over to the bench and we'll start pulling apart the valve body. So there are a few specific bolts we've got to remove now to get this TCU out. Couple down here. Couple more over here on this side. And then 2 up the top. Now we have those removed, it should, in theory, pry loose. Sweet. So that was just a little bit stuck up in there, but we've managed to get it off. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit and get it nice and packaged so it's all safe and secure, and then send this down to Ash at Fusion Fab. All right, so I've wrapped up everything I need to do tonight in terms of getting the TCU out of the valve body and gearbox. But what I'll do now is show you what I'm going to be sending down to Fusion Fab to get worked on. You can't see it, but I have the valve body and the TCU in there down the bottom. Now I'm pretty sure Ash doesn't need the valve body, but have it in there just in case, and I'll let you know on the screen if he does or doesn't. So I've got the motor ECU here. I have the body loom that goes from the motor through the firewall with these 2 12-pin connectors. And And then also under that, I have my transmission loom. Now, if you've got no idea what I'm talking about, go back to the last M57 video where we pretty much stripped all this out of the donor car so you can get a good idea on what I'm actually talking about. And just before we wrap this video up, I got to give a shameless plug to our stickers. Now, we've got these on the website. These are our holographic premium vinyl stickers. So not only are these stickers made from premium high quality holographic vinyl, they also have a 3-year UV protection film laid over the top of them. So you know that when you're out four-wheel driving and out keeping your car in the weather, it's not going to fade, which is the biggest thing I see from these cheap holographics that other people sell. As you can see, these things reflect the light absolutely perfectly. Again, if you are looking to support us, make sure you jump on the website. We have heaps of stickers available. We sold out of our last merch drop, so thank you very much for that. And there's only bigger and better things to come from here, so stay tuned as we have a couple sick episodes coming up. Going on a camping trip, doing some more work on the Stout here with this new chassis. So yeah, plenty to look forward to.